Hey everyone, it's Kale from Scud Style. I wanted to bring you another raw, unfiltered video today. I was working with a client last night about fantasies and why sometimes it's helpful not to avoid them. I made a video about this back in May. It was pretty similar, but I think the context in this is a little bit different, and it's kind of more applicable and more relatable in a lot of ways. So, a lot of times people on NoFap will, anytime some kind of sexual thought enters their head, they will completely try to repress it, run away from it, hide from it, distract themselves, anything like that. I often think, I came up with an analogy yesterday that I thought was very helpful, in that maybe sometime consider, as this truck comes by, a fantasy that comes up. And I'm not saying something that you go out and search for, but just sexual thoughts, something that enters your head that maybe isn't super welcome during a period of abstinence or a streak, right? And I want you to imagine that fantasy as kind of someone presenting a contract or offering some kind of deal. And the deal is, do you want to indulge in that fantasy and get the reward, which in that contract would be, sexual release, a few seconds of bliss, right? Or do you want your own contract, or to deny that contract and say, because the downsides of that contract are, lethargy, relapsing, losing all these quote-unquote superpowers that you guys have been noticing through strong sexual cultivation and things like that. And can you notice the difference? And can you look at that person and say, no deal? Can you field the offer? Can you have it presented to you and still say no deal? And the reason why I say that, as opposed to, for instance, if you are the person who thinks or has a sexual fantasy or a sexual thought or something, and then at first glimpse of it, you run away from it. So if you see that person if that person is the fantasy, right, the person presenting the deal, and you see them from 100 yards away, first whiff of them, and you run the other direction, and you keep running every time you catch a glimpse of that person is going to keep trying to hound you down to offer you this deal, right, over and over and over again. If you receive that person instead, if you acknowledge the sexual fantasy or let it kind of play out, don't indulge in it, right? Don't go through it. Don't look for new ones. Don't look up new material or anything like that. But if you kind of let it play out, let it present to you, and then say, you know what? If it went down that path, that'd be this deal, and I don't think that deal is worth it. No deal. And the more oftentimes that you can receive the deal and say no, the better your resolve and your power to walk away from that kind of stuff is, because we live in a sexualized society. It's everywhere, it's on billboards, it's in shows, in our popular culture, it's everywhere. It's in music, and you can't control how those things enter your life, because if you avoid them forever, at one point they will penetrate. They will get in there. They will enter your mind. They will enter your consciousness. You'll come across one by accident or not. But if you learn to live among them and just say, no, I see that's, if I were to indulge in that, if I were to go down that path, then the contract would be this. I would get 5 seconds of pleasure and I would lose all this progress. No deal. So the more you can kind of field and be aware of that fantasy and not indulge in it, but be aware of it and then say no deal to it as it comes up, the stronger you'll be. Thanks guys, hope you're doing well, and carry on.